A few years ago, when I was starting my first marketing agency with GoHighLevel, I got the advice that high ticket is much easier than low ticket. So I started trying to sell high ticket, until I failed. That's when I heard the other source of advice, which said low ticket is much easier to sell because obviously more people are willing to buy it, especially when you don't have skills, you can't charge much. And the thing is, the more and more videos I watched, the more information I gathered, the more educated I became, the more confusion started being built up here. So in this video, we're going to go over 10 common pieces of advice that you probably have some sort of misinformation about, that you kind of know it works, but you don't really know if it's the way to go for you or not. And that's the worst place to be, because if you have this cognitive dissonance in your brain and you understand the pros but the cons, but you don't know if it's for you or not, you are stuck. That's when you get stuck in procrastination, because lack of clarity is the #1 reason for it. So in this video, we're going to be ranking the 10 most common pieces of high-level advice for beginners. They're going to be popping up right now here on the screen because I couldn't be asked to write them down. We're going to go over them, don't worry about it. Starting with my example of high ticket. Now, high ticket is very easy to sell in the way that you don't need to deliver much. And obviously, to make $10,000, you can either have one client that gives you the $10,000, or you could have 100 who give you 100 each. Now, of course, even if you do make something a lot more intricate for the one person, it's still going to be way less than the 100 people, especially if you factor in payment issues that come with the 100 people and customer support and all of this stuff. It becomes a pain in the ass. So long term, you do want to raise your prices. Alex Hormozy is as well really big on going up market as a marketing agency, just serving better people, selling to richer customers. But the problem with this is that it's so unrealistic, and I swear to God, everyone gets this wrong. When someone is here and they're making 100K a month, right? They're making 100K and you're here and they start chatting shit, right? They start talking yeah, by the way, you need to do this, you need to do that. And they start talking, right? They're giving advice to themselves. These people rarely have the intelligence to go back to when they were at 0 or 10K or whatever, much further back than they are right now. They don't have the intelligence to give you any tangible and logical pieces of advice. So this is why you often don't actually want to listen to this, even though they are much more qualified. This advice rarely sticks out to you. Now, there's a big caveat. If you're already very, very skilled and you're 100% certain that you could deliver results and you could confidently pitch fucking 5K retainers, sure, go ahead. But the problem with all of this is that you're probably not, and that's okay. And the sooner you're going to drop your ego and get your first few customers, which it's really not hard, by the way, when you're adequately priced, the sooner you are going to get to the point where you can charge the big bucks. So theoretically, this is true, but it's not the best piece of advice for beginners, and that's why it's going into the B tier. Next one, volume negates luck. This is something that Alex Hormozy is also very big on, and it's for a reason. Now, when we're beginners and we don't have much experience, the problem is that we conceptually don't have anything to contrast our experiences to. This means, for example, when you start running, you don't know if you're fast or not because you haven't ran before. And just in the same way in business, when you start calling someone, let's say you start cold calling with a script, and you're saying script #1, and it doesn't work for you, at least you make 20 calls and no one answers, you will be drawn to take the conclusion that this doesn't work. And chances are you're just going to go flat out to the polarity that this doesn't work. You're not going to be like, hey, this kind of works or kind of doesn't. You're just going to say it doesn't work. And it's a very logical conclusion after all. But what we have to understand is that our brain isn't built to think in scales, it's built to think in polarity, when that's usually not the right conclusion. What do I mean by this? And this doesn't only apply to cold calling, but stick with me here. Usually when we make 100 cold calls, okay, let's say we made 100 calls, usually we're going to book somewhere between 0 and 10, okay? We're going to book somewhere between 0 and 10 meetings, maybe more if you're incredibly experienced and very good, but usually it's going to be between 0 and 10. And the thing is, all of the script, all of these kind of stuff, it's not it works or it doesn't, but does it book you 4 meetings out of 100? Or does it book you 8? Or does it book you 7? These are the questions. Does it work better than something else? Slightly. There isn't any fucking golden ticket to success. The way the market works is if there is some kind of golden ticket, if there is some kind of shortcut, everyone jumps on it, and it no longer is that. It works at an equilibrium. So instead of seeking for some kind of golden ticket, be an optimizer, okay? First of all, you need to understand that the reason volume negates luck is because everything works. You just have to do more usually. And again, to an extent, we can look to improve our scripts, we can look to improve our ads. Again, it applies to everything. But the thing is, if you have a cold call script that books you 4 meetings out of 100, getting this to 8 is incredibly difficult. You have to improve a lot, and it's usually not a script, it's actually your skill level. But actually doing twice as much, although it seems daunting, although it seems incredibly hard to do 200 calls a day, these barricades, these blockades, these limiting beliefs are usually all in your mind. The thing is, you do have 16 hours a day when you're awake. is just a fact, or maybe it's 15, maybe it's 17, whatever the case may be. All you need to do is cold call for like 6 hours a day to make 200 dials. Yet most people stop after 7, just because it's a bit painful. And the reason I love this is because it shines such a light on the fact that you are the business. It's not that it doesn't work or there's something wrong factually with your situation. It's just that you don't really have the discipline to start doing so much that it would be unreasonable for you to succeed. And that's what we're trying to aim for here. In some sense, it's not even about the calls or doing more of the painful task itself. It's actually what that does to you, how much the work works on you more than you work on it. And if you can swallow this hard to swallow pill that volume does negate luck, as a matter of fact, not only will you get more results straight up than your competition, and you will absolutely demolish everyone and get a lot of money, even in your free trial of high level if you're starting out, but you will also improve as an individual. Your skill level will skyrocket so fast. And for that reason, this is undoubtedly S-tier advice. Number 3, pick one niche. I agree with this hard a lot. Pause on that. This was one of the things which I fucked up in my previous agency. I made a video about that, or the reason I quit it, and this was one of them. I was very much a generalist, and I had a big headache when it came to dealing with my clients. Not only the custom support side of things, but I didn't have a consistent outreach system set up. I didn't have even fulfillment. I had to learn so many features of high level to a high bar to be able to deliver, because I was just doing everything at once, and it's not a good place to be. Marketing-wise, growth-wise, stress-wise, it just doesn't really have any advantages. However, the reason this is not S-tier advice is because it doesn't really help you in the beginning if you niche down. What I mean by this is, if you just randomly pick a niche, first of all, there isn't any like amazing niche. Again, previous point, the market is at an equilibrium. If there is like some amazing niche, everyone will jump on it, it will become saturated, and it no longer exists, right? And that's just where the market is at all points. Like everything works. Even if a niche isn't that good, well, not many people are going to be in it, so it's still kind of like mediocre, just like everything else is. So everything works. The question is, which one will you make work? Back to the point though, the reason picking a niche is not the best idea, in my opinion, in the beginning, is because you don't really know which one to pick. And sure, you can just pick one, you can go into it, it's not horrible, but in my opinion, the biggest thing you have as a beginner, when you don't have any experience, when you don't have any skills, when you don't have any testimonials, is trust. You can go to your local market, and I think that's by far the best thing, and that's something that I really nailed with my first agency. You can go to your local market, bank on the trust you already have with them, given that you are from the same area, you speak the same way, look the same way, etc., etc. Maybe you even know them, maybe they're in your warm contact list. It'll be so much easier to book them than if you're like randomly cold calling some stranger that doesn't even know you exist. And that obviously requires you to be a generalist, to kind of reach out to every single niche, and that's not really a problem when you don't really have any skills. If anything, this will just shine a light on what is actually worth getting into for you. So usually I would recommend you go local, you go to your local audience, and once something starts clicking for you, stick to that. In my case, I had success with some roofing clients, and I still remained a generalist. I still started outreaching to fucking lawyers and to massage salons. When I cracked the code with roofers, I kind of copied it, but like, that's another thing we're gonna get to. But I really had a system that worked for me for roofing clients, and I didn't really stick to it. And it became sort of the reason for my downfall. So this is really solid advice, but with the caveat that in the beginning, it's fine to be a generalist. And for that reason, this goes into the A tier. I've already slightly alluded to this inside of the high ticket portion, but starting for free is our 4th piece of advice. And I kind of like this. I don't love it when it comes to actually, like, even if you have some sort of skill, you shouldn't start for free. If you have some sort of experience, you shouldn't start for free. But if you have absolutely nothing, it's actually a lot wiser to start for free, in my opinion. And even if you want to get paid, like paradoxically, if your timeline looks like this, right? This is, let's say, the 30-day mark, and you're doing outreach every single day. This is day 0, okay? So if you get your first free client here, and you get a second free client here, you're probably gonna get your first free client here, still within the 30 days. But if you're just trying to get the first paid client, and all of them are asking you, hey, can you show me a case study? Hey, can you show me a testimonial? Hey, and even the way you speak about it, the conviction you have in yourself comes through. Whereas, in here, like if you have already 2 free clients, you're going to have conviction because you've already done it. So in all cylinders, you're going to be much more competent when it comes to sales and when it comes to outreach, if you already have customers. So in a funny way, if you were not taking free clients, your first paid client might come here, might come later down the line, rather than if you were taking the free ones. And it might seem like a lot of work to you. I'm not going to lie to you, it's not easy, but this way you will make money a lot faster. Again, there's a caveat, like if you're already skilled, if you already have experience from a job and you're already confident and all you have to learn is like 1 skill or 2 skills, sure, you can start charging right away. I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue, because if you already have conviction, like is going to come through. If I start selling right now, I'm not going to go for free, even if I start another agency, which I am, by the way. I have another channel. If you want to check it out, you'll probably find it somewhere. Anyway, I'm not going to start for free because I already have conviction, I already have skills, I already have experience. Why would I? However, for you, like, it might be a bit disrespectful, but please drop your ego with this. Because if I started out for free, I would have got my first client much sooner. And the people I'm coaching, I see it time and time again, the people who have the ability to drop their ego and just start calling people, like, you won't need to make more than 10 phone calls, more than 10 walk-ins to get your first free client, because it's just so much easier. And once you have your first free client in the first week, well, why don't you get your first paid one in the second week? It will become, again, so much easier. So for that reason, this also goes into the A tier. There is a slight caveat, but I do really like this advice generally. Number 5, sell in the USA. This is one that has kind of been an unspoken law of marketing online. Everyone goes into the US, and to this day, I don't understand why. It's kind of like a status quo. No one really questions it. Now, of course, there are some advantages. US usually has a bit less regulations. That's at least a myth. The US has like a bit more entrepreneuristic culture. Sure, I'll give it to you. It has some purchasing power as well. But other than those three things, like, why would you go into the US? Even if you stay in like Europe or certain parts of Asia, you can charge a lot of money. The purchasing power is kind of the same. If you sell in your local market, granted that you're obviously not in the US, you're gonna have a lot more trust, and that's very significant, by the way. And also, because again, like, this is a status quo and everyone goes out there, the competition is at an all-time high. Everyone's doing business in the US, meaning if you're from like some fucking village in Slovenia or Denmark or even Singapore, like, why couldn't you sell to your local market? HighLevel works the same way. GDPR is not any tighter than the new regulations that came through in 2025 are in the US. Although I would have probably put this like A or B tier back a few years ago. In 2026, this makes 0 sense to me. And for that reason, it's going straight down to the bottom of C tier. Number 6, sell before learning. This makes a lot of sense because although it might seem a bit scary, the way you will learn is actually by selling, is actually by doing the thing. It's actually putting your back against the wall. That's the experience of me and all of the people essentially that I coach, with very, very few exceptions. So although it's very scary in the beginning, and although you might not want to do it, the facts are, if you actually learn to sell and you get yourself in a position where you're getting money for something that you don't even know how to do, you will learn. If you're just a slightly conscientious person, you will learn how to do it. And especially now with so many tutorials, so many courses, and so many good offers on the market, it's actually really not that hard to learn, especially that you can like ask ChatGPT or Claude anytime. The only downside of this is actually in the conviction that I mentioned earlier. Like, when you're actually pitching someone and you've never done it before and you don't even have the slightest clue of how to do something, sure, it comes off like a bit needy and a bit like insecure in some sense, that, okay, like, this guy's talking to me, but I don't even see it in his eyes that he's confident. The energy really comes through. Sales is just a transference of energy. So it can be a bit harder to sell, but genuinely, like, if you were to waste hours learning something that isn't even a guaranteed sale for you, that you're probably not even going to be in that niche anyway, it doesn't make any sense. So my take on this has always been that you should like 20/80 it, that you should like learn 20% of what you're about to sell, like maybe look at a few videos on websites, a few videos and automations, kind of have an understanding of how it works, learn the words that these people use, learn the kind of phrases that you need to understand what kind of results you could get, and then once you can kind of confidently present it in a meeting, go ahead and sell ASAP. So it's kind of in the middle. It's still, again, leaning more towards the sales side, and for that reason, this will go in the A tier, because it is genuinely very good advice. But I don't recommend going into selling entirely blind, because you can get like quite a lot of knowledge, like 80% of the knowledge you need to sell with just 20% of the learning. Number 7, stop doing outreach as soon as you get your first few clients. Usually, and I saw a video on this like literally yesterday, although this is a bit less common, like more and more people are saying this for some reason. Usually most people say this because if you've got a few clients, you're going to get referrals, you can put that money into ads, you can start doing things that are more leverage, they say. You know, you can start doing things that aren't attached to your time. You can hire VAs to sell for you, you can hire ads, and you can manage a sales team to close for you. The thing is with this, like, how would you ever have the judgment to see if others are selling well for you if you've never sold for consistent periods of time yourself? If you've only got like a handful of clients, you've been doing outreach for like 2-3 months yourself, how do you think you will judge whether or not a VA is doing a good job? How do you judge whether or not you're going to give them a good script? How do you judge who to hire? It doesn't make any sense to me. And usually this is just pain avoidance in disguise. Sure, there comes a point when you should stop doing outreach, so it's not horrible advice. And especially with how smart ads are becoming in 2026, ads can perform still quite well, even though it's saturated. But the thing is, This is, again, just a level of pain avoidance. The amount of risk you're going to be putting your business in once you're putting a lot of money into your business instead of your time, especially if you're not too advanced, is way more than you should take in the beginning. So unless you're making like 6 figures a month or like 50K at least, and you've done outreach consistently almost every day for like 6 months, I really wouldn't consider stopping, because why would you? I don't know, this goes somewhere between like B and C tier. I'm just going to put it into B because it probably has a tendency of moving upwards. And it is like okay advice to some people, but it's definitely the bottom of B tier if I'm putting it into this one. Number, is it 8 now? Yeah, I think it's 8. Copy what works. This is probably the best piece of advice. There's very few amounts of times when I've gone wrong through copying. And that might seem a bit like sleazy to some of you, but if you think that, then you're just not up to date with entrepreneurship culture and you haven't been around in the game for long enough, because everyone copies relentlessly. Some people just do it better than others. Now, even if you look at art, even if you look at like music or even fucking paintings or architecture for that matter, everyone copies. It's just if you attach a bit of your personality to it, it doesn't really seem like it anymore. I bet your favorite song has a song that sounds almost entirely identical to it that was released like 40 years before. Someone just added like modern instrumentation to it. And the way I made my first dollar in high level, or not my first dollar, but the way I actually started making consistent recurring income was through like relentlessly copying what Max Pearson was doing. But this guy was doing high level. Now he's big into school and some other stuff. Anyway, he was doing high level and he had a marketing agency for roofers. And I copied his whole entire funnel and it worked amazingly. And I recommend everyone does this because there's just no reason not to. He was doing this for like, I think Floridians, like he was having this agency where he reached out to people in the USA, of course, and especially like Florida, like south of the US. I don't know if he was niched down into a state or whatever. Point being, I brought what he was doing successfully in the US into the European market. Now there were very small adjustments I had to make, like the kind of roofs that people have in America is very different material to what they have in Central Europe or the UK. So of course I had to make like a little adjustment, but like if you have above room temperature IQ, there shouldn't be a problem for you. Now if you do everything exactly how the person is telling you to, you go into the same exact market, same exact offer, same exact messaging, same exact SOPs, same exact setup, sure, like why would anyone buy from you? Then we can actually ask the question, why would anyone buy from you? Because you're the exact same thing. But if you copy the offer, if you copy the marketing but take it into a different market, or you go into the same market, copy the offer even, but you message differently, you message on a different channel, you switch up something, you're not going to have any problems. And that's just the case of the matter. So for this reason, this goes straight into the S tier. Advice number 9 is recurring revenue is king. Now, recurring revenue is very nice. And in the age of software, even my fucking ring, like you see this ring, it's like a health tracker thing. It's called Aura Ring. Even this has like a subscription. I have to pay for the software of the ring, which is a bit annoying, but like it makes sense. If someone builds you a product which is serving you over time, over and over and over, especially if the product has like maintenance costs, they have a right to bill you on a subscription basis. And that's what Netflix, that's what every software is doing nowadays. And of course, it is very nice. I suggest you have some form of recurring revenue inside of your business, but this kind of made me tunnel vision in on only like recurring, and I had to make my product monthly when that's just simply not the case. First of all, one thing that you could do is build it down to like, I don't know, you charge 8K in 6 months, or make a time frame where you charge that amount. So essentially, this is just a payment plan for like, what is it, 48K? Now, of course, this is like a very expensive one, but you get the gist of it, right? You don't have to have this payment built forever. Or another one I like to do personally is setup fee plus low monthly recurring fee. Like if you would charge them 5K and then 297 per month. This also works very, very well. And for a website, this makes perfect sense because 5K for the initial build out, which actually takes time and energy. And secondly, well, I mean, that's a bit of a lie because now you have AI inside of high level, which you can make websites within 2 minutes. But then you can charge like this recurring thing for the software on the back end. And again, this makes perfect sense. So yeah, sure, like recurring revenue is nice, but it's more about what makes sense. And a lot of time when people like just taking a step away from high level, when people try to sell information, by the way, try to sell courses or this kind of stuff, they try to put like a monthly recurring revenue price tag onto it. It just doesn't make that much sense because like if someone watches your course, why would they keep paying you for the course that they already watched? So sure, it's like nice, but it's much more about making the price tag make sense for the offer. Sometimes that's just going to be one fee. Sometimes it's going to be a fee plus monthly recurring. Sometimes it's going to be monthly over a period of time. Now, I wouldn't recommend you get too lost in the sauce with this. If you sell something like forever, sure, just have a monthly recurring thing. If you sell something that has a lot of work up front and then monthly, then do this. If you sell something just one time, then just do one time. Like, stick to the basic pricing models. All I'm saying here is don't marry yourself to one because it doesn't make that much sense. And for that reason, this goes into the B tier. And finally, we have a very common piece of advice, which is sell the result. Now, you also hear sell the destination rather than the trip when it comes to, for example, Ryanair and these flights marketing, because obviously people want to imagine sitting on the sandy beach and hearing the crashing waves rather than the lack of legroom on a flight that's delayed 2 hours, which makes perfect sense. And going on with this, with the same logic, the reason most people don't want to hear about your high-level service and your AI automation and all the stuff you're going to do for them is because they don't give a shit, quite frankly. All they care about is what kind of result you're going to get them as a business owner, which is usually less time spent on stupid stuff and more money in their bank account. And if you can frame your order this way, this is a surefire way to double or triple your sales with just like a click of a button by reframing your offer in a different way. Now, one thing I must say with this, if you start just making offers just for the sake of it and you want to build someone a website, and in 2026, like most people know what a website is, and you're going to attach an offer to it which you don't even have like any control over, and you're going to say this website is going to give you 10 new customers every single week, and it's like, is it? Like, it's not really in your control to say that, is it? So people can go overboard with this, and they can start making like so stupid offers just because they read Alex Hormozy's 100 million offers book. So usually you always want to highlight the result. Like, it just makes perfect sense to do so, but you don't want to go overboard with this. You don't want to make a stupid offer for someone just like, hey, I know I need a website, can you build me one? And you're going to be like, no, I can get you 10 qualified customers, just stop sounding like a fucking robot, that's all. Usually you can frame your offer in a way where you say something like, I'm going to do this for you in this time period with this, using this, and then you kind of explain more logically what your actual offer is, what the deliverables are, and that's kind of like the golden middle path, as the Latins like to say it, in between the two extremes, which actually makes the most sense. But given this little nuance, if you're able to like overlook this and you're actually able to use this with a bit more IQ than most people are, and you can actually make an offer that sounds good and actually is like hard saying no to, this unequivocally goes into the S tier. So to all of you motherfuckers that skipped ahead just to see this screen, just to see what I put where, first of all, it's not too visually appealing because I'm actually working with a whiteboard and I can't drag images in, so good luck making out my obnoxious handwriting. But I highly recommend you go back in the video and actually watch my reasoning for why these things are where they actually are. But other than that, thanks for watching, subscribe to the video, and see you in the next video.